Let's see if this works better. Maybe. Maybe not. We'll see. Oh, now it's green. I can see it. Does that mean it's actually live? Yes, it is. Turns out Twitch had a little snafu with their passwords the past weekend, so everything was reset, including the stream keys. That is like the password my streaming client uses to make its magical voodoo happen. But once I corrected that little mistake, it turns out I can stream indeed. Something's going on with my hair. I don't know what's that's all about. Let's see. It still thinks I'm offline. I'm sure it's fine. Who's here? Make yourselves known. There's some people. That's nice. Wow. I almost forgot. So last week there wasn't a stream because of reasons. We'll get into that later. But one thing that happened the week before is that I actually broke 1,000 followers, which is really awesome. I'm actually genuinely proud of having that many people care about what I do. So that's very nice. Thank you, everyone. And there's Art Games in the chat. Hello. Per usual, I don't really know what we're going to do today, but that's all part of the charm of this endeavor. I try to make it like a feature, the fact that I don't really plan these streams ahead all that much. So we're going to just make it up as we go along, like we always do. And I'm sure it'll be fine. Now, let's see. Here's the program. This has buttons on it. We'll do it like that. And code crop. Here we go. Now you can see what I'm up to. So here's a little to-do list. I added some stuff to this just a few minutes ago. I guess we'll do, let's take a look at what we did last time first, because I can't remember. So that would be the 19 commits. Less awful asteroid outlines. Austlines even. That's some excellent spelling there. What can you do? So that's the thing we did the stream before last, as I started changing the way the asteroids look, and then I think I actually just went back on that and did it no, this is sort of halfway in between. This is from, I can't remember who suggested it, but someone in the chat was upset that it was displaying 0K, which makes really no sense whatsoever. So I made it so that the score display is just 0 if you have 0 points. And then if it's bigger than, or if it's anything other than 0, it will add the K at the end. Small change. Another thing that we did is that we made the ship face the direction it's trying to go, like the way the engine is powering it, not the actual direction it's moving, which was one and the same before, which makes the getting pulled by the black hole make a little bit more sense, I think. I, for some reason, increased the dead zone on the joysticks. Can't really remember why I did that, but apparently I had a good reason. Yes, and we improved the trail rendering. That was kind of I wouldn't say a big change, but an interesting one. And then I did this commit just like a couple of minutes ago, as I noticed I had spelled multiple wrong. Let's start up the game and take a look. Tish Connect says that I have a nice sweater. Thank you. And you guys, per usual, just let me know if the sound is acting up. I don't think it is, but It's always good to know. Here's some game audio for you as well. Hope that's a reasonable volume. Oh my, that's quite the name. Just followed me. May's Dank Royd. Thanks for following. I naively suspected I had this set up so I could actually look at who followed me after the fact, but I don't think it's working. So yeah, game. So you can see the fancy new trails. They're sort of, before they were just like a trail for where I had been before. Now it's sort of squirting out of the player instead. So it's more of like an engine, the way an engine trail would actually be. I think it looks pretty cool. And yeah, you can see the new rendering style for the asteroids. Or rather the cores, which is, that's old news by now. Chuck this guy in here. No! Got me instead. There we go. What else? Yeah, player should face the direction of travel, not movement. So before, if I drove close to the black hole, my ship would just turn around and look like it was driving towards the black hole, even though it was moving there, but it wasn't really driving there. So this makes more sense from a control perspective. People think this looks very spermy. I agree. I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. The miracle of life. Someone is tweeting nice things about me. That's very kind of you. Let's put this guy in there too. Oh, way up. Pretty cool. Summer's closing in. Any more No More Sweden news? Yes, shortly. I actually had a phone call about No More Sweden just before this stream, so we got stuff cooking. It's happening for sure, but you'll see when and where and how. I should probably turn that sound off so you guys don't have to hear it. So, to-do list. I get super confused by having it big, so I'm gonna have to go back in size. I think that's the true size of things. Spawn super asteroids. Let's look at the ones I did just now. This one we did last week, so that's cool. This is something we need to look at. I know I saw it happen, but then again, the week after it didn't happen. Doesn't really seem like a fun thing to deal with at all. These two are interesting, for sure. Like super asteroids, like make a really big one, or like a special one somehow. That are bigger and more valuable, or do like a special thing where it spawns 10 really tiny ones out of the edge, just something like that. Like make it more like, oh my god, this and this is happening. Could be cool. Like make it more of like a wave type of thing. And that sort of goes together with the more interesting core shapes, because the way it works now, I can have multiple cores like all spread out in the asteroid. I have to redo the score to be able to do that properly, but that is something I could do. Just this a little bit. I think that's good. Right, I lost my train of thought. Interesting core shapes, yeah. So that's absolutely something we could do. Make the bigger asteroids orbit further out. I don't know. Also, potential thing to do. I suppose we could just try it because it's really shouldn't be very hard to do. Player in lower left. Oh, right, that's that one. Just move this guy up here so we don't have to deal with that. This is something I thought of just like before starting the stream. Is a way to tell the other players who's in the lead, like who should we be messing with. Also, I think that the entire sort of flow of the game from starting around to around going into like the ending sequence. Right now, you get a warning like a couple of seconds, like 10 or 5 seconds before it ends, and that's all you get. There's no. That's not very elegant right now. It just ends because when I was making this for the game jam, I sort of ran out of time and I had to cut some corners, and that's one of the things that got cut. So that is not a very elegant thing right now. Which sort of moves into improving the menu and like the meta stuff of the game, like the way it looks when you enter the game. Another thing I like to add to like local multiplayer games that are shown at events and stuff is a way to just have the game keep track of when did someone touch the controls rather the last time, and if nobody has touched it for 2 minutes, you can just assume everyone who's playing has left, and just have the game reset itself to have whoever comes as a new player have like a fresh setup for them, and also like a really easy thing to add. And if you do it well, no one will ever notice that it's there. It just feels good. I'm not entirely sure which one we should do. Let's try this one just because it's such an easy thing to do. So I don't know if this, I'm going to try something. Is the code I use to draw the vector graphics available on GitHub? It depends on what you mean. I'm using the OpenFL like graphics API for the actual drawing. So that's a part of OpenFL. So that's going to be on GitHub, I guess. And for like the menu and stuff, I'm using the OpenFL SVG library. There's one for that. It's okay. It's not amazing, but it does work for my purposes. So I guess, yes, it is available on GitHub, but that's on the OpenFL GitHub, not mine. And if there's some OpenFL stuff on my GitHub, that's probably old and outdated by now, so don't look too much at that. Physics, render, debug. Does this still have what I want? Yes, it does, but you can't really see it. So let's... am I going to attend a Rapid Game Jam this May? Probably not. I might pop by, see what they're up to, but I don't think... I got a lot of stuff going on in May, so I don't think I'll have time. Which is sad. So this is probably what I want. So all the asteroids have a force applied to them that makes them, you can see it like they spawn in a perfect circle. Perfect. But in a circle like this. And the first thing that happens is, because they sometimes, like the really big ones, overlap, so the first thing that happens is that the physics engine resolves any collisions, like moves them out a little bit. And then the stuff that's happening right now is my code that is distributing them evenly. So they're trying to stay away from nearby asteroids, giving this like nice pattern. And actually, we can see if that does anything. Yeah, the sliders won't let me turn it off completely, but you can see that they're actually, no, a little bit less moving apart, a little bit less, I guess. So the thing I just changed here was so I could show you it is actually rendering, like this little line here is the force that is being applied to the asteroid to make all of this happen. And it's also making them orbit. That is also my code. So I'm applying a slight little push clockwise to all of them to make them go around. So if I get like this asteroid right here and bring it with me out here, as long as I'm holding on to it, it won't have any extra force applied to it. But once I let it go, it should, maybe. Oh, right. So one thing this isn't taking into account is that a bigger asteroid is heavier. So a bigger asteroid will have a longer arrow drawn on it. Because it's scaling that force to be about the same size for, like, disregarding the actual size of the asteroid. See, now you can see it's trying to get back into the center. I'm actually thinking this might be a little bit broken because it should be, it is going back, it's just really slow. But I suppose that's fine. You can see this guy is really doing it. I think the ones that get the really long dash is because it's colliding with these two. So these two are effectively pushing that one along. So I think that's why the line looks so much longer out there. But all of this doesn't really matter. So one thing I can do is I can mess with this force and have the bigger ones try to go outwards a little bit. Just like a slight little push outwards should make them end up on like the outer rim generally, which is why this is such an easy thing to do. So if we take a look at the asteroids, or rather, I think it's an asteroid collection, distribute. So the first thing it does here, it figures out the center of the world, which is always a good thing to know. We'll probably do that. So it figures out the center of the world, and it resets the force on every asteroid just to make sure that it's like starting from zero, because this does some crap that needs it to start from zero for everyone. If not, I could just do this in like, so I'm looping twice here, but just to keep things easier for my brain, I do it in 2 loops. Which is fine. Like, this runs on computers anyway, so we have plenty of processing power. So then for every asteroid, it checks every other asteroid and makes sure that they are like sufficiently far apart. And if they're not, it will add some forces to like try to get them to stay apart. Then it scales up that force to compensate for the mass of the asteroid. So even a small asteroid can push a big asteroid out of the way, which is unrealistic, but it's a video game. And that's the distribute force. Then we have the center force, which is the one that keeps them inside of this little ring. So if it's too close, it will try to go out. And if it's too far, it will try to go in. I don't know why I'm gesturing so much. I know you guys can't even see my hands. Yeah, so if it's inside, it will be pushed outwards. If it's outside this ring, it will be pushed inwards. And then it normalizes this force, apparently. That's surprising. I don't know why it does that, but I suppose that's okay. Needs push. This is interesting. Oh, I remember. So it figures out how far it is from the center. If it's too far, it's this. If it's too close, it's this. And these will flag it as needing to be pushed. And if that is true, it will apply this force to the asteroid. That's all cool. And this flips the axis for some reason. Oh yeah, this is the orbiting. So it figures out, it takes the distance to the center, like the vector to the center, and just flips it 90 degrees, which is these 3 lines of code will flip the axis so that instead of being so you got the center of the world is here, you got the asteroid here, and it figures out this direction. By swapping them like this, we get the 90 degree to that, so like that direction, which is the way I'm pushing it to make it orbit. So if I've changed the value of any of these, I could make them orbit the other way around if I wanted to. But I like clockwise, that's nice. So one thing we can do here is that we can go maybe not if, how heavy are the asteroids, I wonder. So we got the force scale from up here that we'll figure out. So I guess we'll try this. If it's bigger than 2, we'll use the center force here as well. And we'll do center force. Actually, we could probably do center force, copy, and then flip it around, center force. I don't want to multiply with a matrix, I want to multiply with a scalar, which is just multiply, I think. So -1, which will take this vector and turn it into this vector, I think. I hope. Which gives us a force outwards. And then we can go A, distribute force. Oh, then I suppose we need to do this as well. Asteroid orbit big outer force. That's an awful name for a variable. Big outer threshold. Did I not? Oh, I didn't save. And we'll just set that at 2 for now. Guess we can do that just to keep things a little bit shorter. A distribute force at. Okay, stand back. Things are going to blow. So the big ones are definitely moving out, except for that one. You can see them being a little bit twitchy. It's because it's not updating this very often. Because it doesn't need to. And it's a little bit intensive, like computational wise, because this asteroid has to check all of the other asteroids to see if they're colliding. It's not terrible, but there's no reason to do it all that often. So what did I call these? Orbit something. Big outer threshold. So it's probably this one that's like the force. This one's a little bit exaggerated. This one's going. And that one's definitely going. Let's try it with a new set of asteroids. So they can still get stuck behind another asteroid, which will keep them in this weird like spacing out type of thing. Hanged man, thanks for following. Appreciate it. So this is a little bit exaggerated, I think. So we'll bring that down to 0.49 maybe, and we'll bring the threshold up a little bit. I really should have a way of like highlighting the ones that are being affected by this, but I don't. Feels like they're further apart now. Change this so it actually goes all the way down to 0. See what that feels like. Boop, 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 boop. No, asteroid. Here we go. The threshold, I think, needs to go down. Like this one isn't big enough to be in that party. You know what? I know just the thing. Just gonna turn these off for now. Hey, this is probably not awesome. So I'm using the center force after I'm messing around with it, which is probably not super good. Actually, no, I do need it normalized. That's fine. And then we'll just disable this as well. Disable all the things. That's how we roll. I might have disabled one thing too many. We'll see. Let's try to dial that down a little bit. Here we go. They're moving. But not that one. That should be like most of them. 0.6? Maybe that's a good threshold for big. It's too strong too. I guess that's also because it's not actually doing the limiting stuff now. Well, I like that. That's subtle. So 0.6. Let's do 0.65. Because I'll turn these guys back on. And we'll see. It might be that they are just overrunning the original force. This does look kind of cool. I think it is a little bit strong still because they are orbiting really far out. They should be staying within this band right here. Then just turn it down a little bit. And then I gotta rename those constants because they're awful. What am I making? I do not mind showing you. I can show you right now. I'm making this. Night Stalker is asking in the chat. I'm making this game. It's called Collapse. Where you drive around a little spaceship. And you can hook up to these asteroids. And you can drill into them. And they will split in this fascinating fashion. And then you can shuck them in this wormhole. And you'll get paid. Because you are a space miner. This asteroid looks funky. It's fine. That was probably bad. Wow, narrowly escaped the clutches of death. So it feels like everything's orbiting further out now, which I'm not super happy about. I suppose I could change that by just lowering orbits, belt, outer bound. That will bring the small ones in. The big ones don't really seem to care. Okay. Knock this down another step. Just gonna make sure that it's actually being applied correctly. So it is copying the center force and it's multiplying that by L? No, that's not the one. Here. What's L? Okay. I don't know what's doing that. That's fine. Oh, it's because I don't know. This is it's like someone coded this when they were drunk or something. So if the force scale, basically, if this is a big asteroid, take the center force, make a copy of it, and then scale it to do shit and orbit force. That's not what I want. That's what I want. So it wasn't actually using my value. That makes sense. Let's see now. So this asteroid, even though it's big, is going inwards. Kind of looks the way it used to now. It's not a resounding success. Let me put it that way. I have made changes that have been more fruitful. I think next week, or soon anyway, I'll try to do another playtest because it's getting there. I think I need to put some humans in front of this and see what it's like in an orderly fashion. I might also not do that on stream because it's not playtesting. It's not that much fun to watch, I don't think, unless you guys disagree. It is kind of fun though to just put things in the black hole. I suppose this was a good change. It's like it's too subtle to really tell that if it's even doing something. But then again, when I turned it up higher, it felt like it was too much. So maybe it's an improvement. It's not making it worse. So I suppose we'll check that one off the list. And the values are there now if I want to tweak them. Made big asteroids orbit further out. No. Sync. What's the shortcut for sync? Yes. Is this a multiplayer game? Will there be co-op? It is a multiplayer game, that is correct. Will there be co-op? Potentially. It has all the parts for it, for sure. It used to be co-op before, and then I made it versus. But there's nothing keeping it from being like cooperative. It will be local multiplayer only because I don't want to deal with a physics engine syncing over the internet. That seems like more work than I'm prepared to put in, especially for something relatively small like this game. But it does support any number of players, really. I think the main limiting factor right now. Right, that's the way it actually works. So if you are, it only supports four teams. So if you add a fifth player, that player will also be on. You'll start getting 2 players on each team. So it is actually co-op right now. Bob Moth is saying, I would love to see you make a shader for a warp effect in the center that affects the ship visually as well. Interesting. Yeah, I think if we stay on the multiplayer co-op thing, I think if I redo the menus, the one thing I like about it right now is you can just jump in at any time, which is cool for local multiplayer games. Like if you're playing at an event or something, and oh hey, the sound didn't work. That's awesome. And you can like let's say I've been playing here for a minute, and someone's like, oh hey, what's this? They can just join in, and I can leave. I can just not play anymore, and the game doesn't care, which lends itself really well to playing in casual settings for the non-game related meaning of casual. And I can like add another player, and the first player can come back in and just resume where they left off, and everything's cool. I like that. But I would also like it to be so you can be like, okay, let's do 2 versus 1 for like to make it even. If you're like someone is really really good at the game, or if someone's really bad at the game, you can balance teams out that way. I suppose I could do that in game as well. Can't see why not really, but it might be a little bit harder. Either way, it's going to be like GUI work, and GUI work is boring work because it takes a lot of time, and I mean it has to be done, but it's not really very exciting work, I suppose. I think the elegant way of solving it would be like I'm pressing the button, and the first player presses a button, just gets assigned a team, and I suppose let's do some drawing. Let's do some drawing here. So when you start, like the first player just gets chucked into the game. That's all fine, and it's supposed to. So there's a couple of things you have to take into consideration. Like I have a controller. I press start. Right now the game would just start. The timer starts ticking down. Everything's going, giving me like a head start, and then everyone else has also to press start, which is fine right now because you get your own teams. It's just mash start when you want to go, and you're fine, which is like nice and out of the way, and you don't really have to think about it. One thing I could do is that when you're pressing a button for the first time, is having it go like, so like you spawn like that. Imagine. I remember the time where I could draw a triangle, and it will go like, hey, listen. And I can pick if I want to be on the blue team or if I want to just add a new team. And then when a third player comes in or a fourth player comes in or whatever, it would be like an extra option here. Like, oh, do you want to be on the green team Or do you want to be on the blue team? Or do you want to start a new team? Bob Moff is complimenting my drawing skills. Thank you very much. I am drawing extra crappy on purpose. Totally. But doing it this way requires you to interact with this somehow, which I'm not sure how that would work. I suppose it could be like you're pressing and this little thing comes up in the corner. And if you don't do anything, you just press again, it will just add you to a new team. And that's that. So you can, just like before, you can just like mash it and it'll be fine. So it will be like, okay, new player, oh my god. And there's like a plus. And then there's the different teams that you can select. And you don't actually have a ship yet. And once you pick one, that's the one you'll have. I don't know if that's worth the effort. I mean, that's, from the way I see it, that's clearly the best way of doing it. Or not clearly, but that feels like a really good way of doing it. But it's also a lot of work that maybe could be spent better somewhere else. Let's put it in here. Add a smarter way to pick teams to... Hey, someone's following me in the best kind of way. SS Kiwani. Kiwani. Hello, welcome. Add a smarter way to pick teams to allow for co-op and 2 versus 1 and such. Sucked. Does it say? Oh, right. It says sucked before. And Bob Moff is following too. Thank you. I don't really know what to do. Oh my god, Vilunky. Also, hello and welcome, and thanks for following and all those things. This is probably the best way of doing it. Unless you guys have opinions. I suppose it could also just stop the game if someone presses a button and be like, hey, new player, where do you want to go? And then everybody has to wait while that player works out where they want to be. But on the other hand, one thing that's going to happen is that you're going to want to play multiple rounds. Like say you're sitting on the sofa with like 4 of your friends or 3 of your friends. Let's say 3 of your friends, and you have your teams divided up. You don't want to redo that every time you start a new round, because that's going to be Krill Martin. Hello, Martin. Thanks for following me. You don't want to redo the team assignment every time. Like this would be a much smaller issue if it was like, okay, let's get ready to start. Hey, McCout, yay, Blur is also following me. Thank you very much. This would be much less of an issue if you were actually, if there was like a pre-game stage where you could like assign your teams, like in NHL or whatever. That would be less of an issue. But since I don't have that, I could add that, but that would just move the problem somewhere else, because that would introduce the problem of people not being able to join as the game went on. One thing I could do that would be kind of cool is have it so that if you press the button, you'd just join immediately and be assigned a team, which would be a new team unless the teams are full. And then you can press a key on the gamepad to switch teams. Like, okay, I don't want to be a new team, I want to be on the green team. And that would be that. And anyone can switch teams at any point, and it's just up to the players to police that. So if your friend is like, I don't want to be on the green team, I'm going to switch, you're going to have to punch them on the arm and be like, don't do that. Behave. There's a lot of talking in the chat right now. Why not use left and right bumper to swap teams? That's absolutely an option, or the D-pad or something. Yeah, I could do that. Bob Moff is like, I feel like it should be two different kinds of modes, one for events and one for closed parties. I see your point, but having multiple modes is complicated. Right now, this game is on Windows, so I wasn't really drawing controllers specifically. This is just colors. It does kind of look like crappy controllers, but this is really an actual plus, not a D-pad. So I do agree with you guys on that. And also, I suppose I don't want people switching teams by mistake. And right now, it's also all the ships. The only discerning factor between the ships are their color. So if you have two players on the green team, you have two ships that look exactly the same, which is kind of problematic, I suppose. This is harder than I thought it'd be. But I guess the being able to switch at any time is kind of a good way of doing it. And then I can just remember what team you were last and just put you back on that team. Or like what team that controller was on last. I don't think we're going to do that today, because I think I need to think about this a little bit more. Press a special button. I suppose and then you get into these weird situations where, okay, so you have three teams, you play half a round. One team has a bunch of points. If somebody leaves that team, what happens to the points? I suppose they stay. Later problem. Yeah, let's think about that in the background for a little bit. Tesh connects. Am I saying your name right, by the way? Let me know. Unrelated question to the current problem. Since the graphic is vector, does it scale automatically when you resize the screen, or does OpenFL do it for you? OpenFL does it for you, but not in a way that I particularly like. It doesn't do the centering properly always. So what I tend to do is I do my own scaling. There's an event you can listen for that's like, hey, the window is bigger now. And I have my own little snippet of code that figures out how big things should be. This guy right here. So it just checks like, okay, the stage, which is reference to the window, basically, like the everything. It's this big and it's this tall, and then it figures out the ratio. And using the ratio, it figures out if it's in landscape or if it's in portrait. Portrait isn't very common for desktop computers, but I can still run the game and do this, which is technically, like, this is very much a portrait resolution. Anyway, then it uses the, so it knows that, like, I set in my own little configuration thing, I want the game to be this wide and this tall. And then if it's in landscape, I know that the height is probably going to be the limiting factor. So I set that first. And if it's in portrait, I know that the width is going to be the limiting factor. So I start with that, and then I use that value for the other value as well. It's like here, you can see that I'm calculating, like, okay, the stage is this tall and it's supposed to be this tall. That will give me the ratio of how big everything needs to be to fit. And then I use that for both the values. And the same thing, it's like, okay, the portrait, it is thinner than it's wide. So I use the width and I figure out, okay, this is how wide it can be to fill up the window completely. And then I use the size that I end up with to position it centered. It's not super fancy. I think I might have gone over this code before now that I just did it again. But I suppose that's fine. What are people saying? Blah, blah, blah. Bob Moff thinks I'm overthinking the player assignment. I don't think there's such a thing. This is game development, after all. There's plenty of room for overthinking everything. This is, yes, indeed, hacksy, or hacks. I can't remember what they've decided upon. It looks a little bit like JavaScript, that's true. It's way cooler, though. I don't know what to do now. Let's take a look at the list here. Super asteroids, don't want to do that. More interesting core shapes. Maybe not. Mark the leader somehow. I think we can do this one. Do I have some type of document with some graphics in it that I can draw on? I don't think I do. Suppose we have this, but that's kind of crap. That's not at all what I want, but let's open it anyway. Ship colors. Yeah, this is more like it. I'm gonna do the proof. So. We got a little player here. I'm going to do some kind of marking on this specific player. It's an empty layer. It's actually exactly what I need. So I'm thinking we just do the obvious. Make a little crown. And we'll see that. We'll see what that feels like. Do it like that. I can never remember where this tool hides in the menu. Here it is. Whoops. Just make these a different color so you can see what's going on. Alex, who is colorblind, tells me that he can see all the colors, so that's good. I think I actually checked it before, just to make sure. Whoops. Ugh, I can't computer. Yeah, so that I suppose these two are a little bit ambiguous. But that's okay. Here's a crown, kind of. I think I want to make it a little bit stubbier. Maybe, if Illustrator will let me. Maybe I gave it one too many of these. So there's a thing. Here we go. Are you kidding me? Path, average. Okay. In what universe is that the average? Or is this actually 2 points? That was the case. Okay, Illustrator, you were right. That was the average. Average. Here we go. That's more like it. And then... oh my god, who's following me? Rukboto. Hello. Is this now 2 anchor points? Of course. This ended up being a little bit more complicated than I originally had envisioned. That's like the pretty clear shape for a crown. And I think eventually I might do different shapes for the different teams, just to, like, in case someone's colorblind or if the screen's a little bit bad or something, it might be hard to keep them apart. I don't actually I don't think these are the colors, the actual colors that are in the game. I might have tweaked them a little bit. In a way, it feels like a little bit of a cop-out to put a crown on the leader, but it's also really readable and good, and people will understand what it means. I hope. That looks awful. I don't want to do that. Bizarre features of new Illustrator. Really, really freaky. kind of want to round off the bottom a little bit. See what that feels like. Ellipse. I do want to keep it. This is too much. Maybe like that. It does give me these really nasty, pointy ends. And then I think I want this color for the outline, which I want to do that with, and then, well, Illustrator. I know you can do it. Is that good? What are you guys chatting about? Afternoon. Good afternoon. Yes, totally. I don't know. Is this? Well, let's try. Let's try putting it in the game and see. We'll see what it feels like. Is it? Are they really that small? How big are you? I cannot know this. 7 by 7 pixels. That's kind of not very big. Yeah, so that's to scale. That's good. Path. Outline stroke. And then I want to do this just to keep it simpler, make the shape a little bit simpler. Yeah, I do want to do that, and I want to put it here. Come crown, SVG. There we go. And then we can tweak the crown size. It doesn't need to be immediately readable as a crown. I think it just needs to be, like, if you actually look at it, you can tell that it's a crown, and once you know what it is, you can just be like, oh, that guy has the thing. Let's get him. And I think once we've done that, that's going to be the last thing we do today. Because I'm spent. What the hell's clamp? Am I ever using that? No. I guess clamp, you're getting replaced. Can't see a crown here. I can't actually see the smallest little black dot. That might be a crown. Why is it so very, very small? Let's try putting it in. That's strange because I did it at the same scale. Oh. Yep, there it is. Okay, so even though it's at the same scale, it's too small now. I don't really understand. That's a crown for sure. That looks funny in a bad way. So I guess the first thing we gotta do is we gotta move this up a little bit, preferably all of it up a little bit. And then we'll try again. Edge Connect, does the bitmap smooth themselves, or how do you manage not to get clunky edges? There are no bitmaps involved. That's how I manage to not do that. It's all vectors. Polygons and stuff. If you're talking about the like fit to screen type scaling, that gets a little bit more complicated if you're doing pixel art, because you want to scale by whole integers so you don't mess up the pixel art, and then it gets tricky. So that was maybe a little bit too much. Put it there, and then we gotta find rotation. We're gonna find something is rotating this bad boy. Suppose it doesn't really matter. Just do it here. Crown rotation is minus rotation, which will keep it always facing up. And it's GFX crown. Feels really weird when the sound doesn't work. I don't know about the outline. The outline does fulfill a purpose, but it's also the only thing in the game that has an outline. And obviously the color would be different for each player. So I think we'll do that. And we will also do this to like exaggerate the crown shape a little bit. Let's see what this looks like. feels like it's too thin on the bottom now. And I also suppose that little bend doesn't really come through at all. I guess I could try that, but that doesn't look like a crown at all. No. Straight lines forever. At what age did you start to learn how to do this? I don't know. I was really young, like 12, 10 years old. But I have been really bad at this for a really long time. Which is the way to do it if you want to get good at something. You have to be really bad at it for a long time. I think that kind of works as a crown. I added this little pulsating effect to it, which is too slow right now. Make it twice as fast. Yeah, it's better without the outline, I agree. And I think I just make it white or something. Before I was thinking I'd make it the same color as the player, but I think I've changed my mind. I do want to make it I want to make it react to your movement a little bit. That didn't work at all. Multiply with 100. Always a good trick. That worked. So I want to do minus that, and maybe not 100, but like 5. Do I only stream on Thursdays? Yes, I only stream on Thursdays. Regularly, anyway. There might be special things. But as a rule, only Thursdays. Someone followed me. Mauricio. HD said, hello. Thanks for following. This is getting there. Still not truly convinced about having a crown, but having a symbol is a good thing, I think. Let's try making it. I think I have a white color picked for the game, which is probably in the colors class. Let's try making it that color. That will also be like the most visible color. So I can probably get away with making it a little bit smaller, because it's not that important. I do actually work even when I'm not streaming. I am working most of the time. So that guy goes into the pit. And so does that guy. And this guy. So one thing that happens now, because I haven't... what the hell? Oh, didn't have the window focused. So right now everybody gets the crown because everyone's a winner. I don't know about the pulsating. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. Maybe it needs to be a little bit faster and a little bit more subtle. I think that's what we need. So like 3 times and then 0.75. I only rented the office to be able to make it look like I'm working. Yep, that is exactly right. It's all a big scam. Whoop. Is it known what I'm working on outside Collapse? No, it's not. It's still a secret. Unless you happen to find me in real life, and I might show you. Please don't try to find me in real life. That's just creepy. I'm pretty happy with this. I mean, the crown thing obviously needs fixing. I think this thing keeps track of. Yeah, well, I'll just save that for next week, I think. Put it in the to-do list. Mark the leader somehow. Make the crown only show on the leader, not everyone. Let's commit that. Crowns. And then I suppose the crowns are also going to be, I'm going to have to think about teams and stuff for that as well. But I think we did some good work today. I mean, progress is slow, but that's the way it is. We did manage to check some stuff off. I think this guy, which you can't see, this guy right here is going to stay on my to-do list for a long time because that's boring. What's Slicer? Slicer is the name of this project. Before it had a real name. I just named it something when I got started. And then I decided it would be called Collapse as like the proper name. Does Haxi really produce native assembly? No, it depends on the platform. For Flash, it compiles to bytecode, which is assembly in Flash land. But I guess that's not really what you mean. And then for native platforms, it compiles to a bunch of languages, but the one I use compiles to C++, and then you use your normal compiler for Windows. It's a Visual Studio compiler to turn it into like actual binary. Black voodoo magic. That's what they use. Yeah, I think that's all for this week. Lots of people watching right now, which is cool. Lots of people subscribing or following. It's also cool. I appreciate that very much. all the stuff you need to learn about is below me on the Twitch page right now. There's my Twitter, there's my YouTube account where this very stream will go as soon as I remember to upload it, which sometimes takes a while, but most of the time it doesn't. Yeah, thank you so much for hanging out, and I'll see you guys in a week.